I wanted to give you a tip. Keep the bleach empty bottle. Why? Well, hello everyone. Before we get going with tonight's webinar, I got an email from the American Kennel Club today, and the subject line kind of caught my attention. It says, how often should I wash my dog's bowl? Question mark. Well, it's been a while, so I actually was washing the dog's bowls this morning, and how I washed them is I put some bleach in it, scrubbed them real good, and then I put them in the dishwasher. But how often are you guys washing your dog's bowls, your food bowls or your water bowls? And for us amateurs, when we're at home, it's an easy thing to do, but I'm sure for professionals, it's a little bit harder to do when you have a dog full of trucks and you're just pulling out bowls. But I recommend that you at least rinse it out and then give it a little bit of a wipe as often as you can. So the American Kennel Club asks, how often are you doing this? So how often do you do it? Do you do it once a day, once a week, once a month, never? Let's see what the American Kennel Club has to say. So they suggest that you wash your bowl, feeding bowl and water bowl at least once a day. And that's probably good advice, especially for dogs that are sloppy eaters and there's a lot of bacteria and decay and just slobber all over the bowl. So give it a good rinse at least. And when they get real bad, throw them in the dishwasher and have clean bowls. And you don't have to worry about dogs catching any diseases or having any problems, digestive problems and mouth problems, etc. So a little bit of a tip there before we jump in to today's webinar. All right, well, good evening, everyone. I'm Mike Hurd, your host of the Amateur Retriever podcast. I want to thank you for tuning in here on this webinar type style informative information panel. I'm all by myself today, so it's going to be a fairly quick topic, but one topic that I like to touch on and I get an incredible amount of compliments with is on how well my dogs take an initial line, especially when we're running in competition. How do I do that? How can you do that? What methods are you using to teach a dog to take a good initial line? I've got a few props here. The most obvious, especially when it comes to running blinds, you want your dog to take the straightest line possible from where you're sitting next to where the dog is sitting next to you to the line to the blind. Now you go to most hunt tests and field trials, they're going to mark it somehow. So are you just using orange tape and you just kicking the dog off and away you go? Or there is a better way, according to Bill Totten, my mentor, who had taught me a thing or two about teaching a dog to look out. I've got some examples I'm going to share with you that are on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page. I've got some pictures and some videos to share with you, but taking a look at some of the props, a lot of professionals will use something as simple as just one of these white sticks. Got a little thing that's shoving in the ground. You know, you stick that in there and it's white. You can get white, black, or orange, and they stick out pretty well, especially the white ones. And this is something I used on my 3-leg pattern blind, for example, but it's also something you can use out in the field to mark your blinds with. If you're teaching a dog to look out, and that's the most important thing. When they're at your side, they're going to be wandering and looking around. They have no idea what's going on. You want them to look out into the field. And you can grab their attention doing that by having something visible out in the field. There's a couple of ways of doing this. One is with this white post. Another option, something that Bill Totten taught me a long time ago, and I've got a lot of these. These are just a metal pan. You know, they're hard. I painted white on one side, orange on the other. If I have enough sunlight, they stick out pretty good, right? You can see how that white side sticks out nice and bright. But if the sun is behind this white pan will disappear. So what other options do you have? Well, you have to have something that's a little more translucent. And I have several of these. These are just 5-gallon bucket lids. And I just drilled a hole on the top and the bottom, and then I used one of these simple little orange stakes I got at Home Depot. Stick this in the ground. What I like about this is I can either have this little white disc very close to the ground or way up off the ground using this type of a marker or a paddle that's out into the field. But the more important thing is that when the sun hits the behind here, the front of it will actually light up a little bit. So you get a little sunshine to go through it, and these little white lids, and they stick out a lot better than this metal pan. That's a great option. Another option, learned from Clark Kennington when he came up and did a seminar. Get yourself a big old 5-gallon bucket. This 5-gallon bucket sticks out pretty good. So again, I can turn it that way on the ground, and you get that same look as you would with the lid. But this will be laying on the ground. You can stick it like that to have it stick up a little higher on the ground. Or you can turn it on its side. Now you got a little more white showing on the ground. Hard part is, where do you find white buckets? Home Depot has orange buckets. Lowe's have blue buckets. Ace Hardware has white buckets, and I bought probably a dozen white buckets and white lids, and I made my own little markers that I can stick out into the field. And they stick out really, really nice. What I like about the bucket design, I can load this up with probably 10 or 15 of those small round bumpers, those orange bumpers. I can take this out in the field, walk out there 200-300 yards, dump the bucket out, put the bumpers on the ground, and then put this behind it. Walk back to the line, bring my dogs out, and this is how I'll teach them to look out. It's also how I teach them to do complex blind scenarios, keyholes, jumping over a bush or over a log. You have to have something out into the field to grab their attention so they know where they're going. So when you handle them, they still have this idea of where this is at. Otherwise, they'll have no idea where it's at. What are some of the problems of using a big marker like this out into the field? Well, it helps you get a good initial line, but as Pat Burns likes to say, it doesn't help you with your red zone handling. What is a red zone handling? That's that last 10 to 20 yards around your blind. You have to be able to get the dog comfortable handling close to where the blind is at. Now you can do that with a white marker out there, but it's a little harder to tell them to stop when they can see the white marker. So when you take that away, then you actually you're forcing yourself to have to handle to where that bird is at, because you either have to mark it with an orange tape or some kind of a small stake in the ground. I like to teach complex blind scenarios and get a good initial line, and then once they've learned that particular blind, then I'll take away the marker. Come back a day or two later, run that as a cold blind, no marker out in the field whatsoever. See if they remember. If they don't, then I'll have to handle. If they really forget, then I'll have to move up and try and teach it again without the marker. But to get a good initial line, you have to be able to teach your dog to look out into the field. Get their attention out there, not up here, not up at you. They have to get their attention out into the field. And this is some of the ways of doing that. So I'm going to walk you through some scenarios that I use both the bucket, the stake. This particular one I really like when I do a wagon wheel, because I like to use the white side on the long ones and the orange side on the short ones. And the short ones with the orange marker are the hardest ones to do. And I've got a couple of wagon wheel videos up on my YouTube channel that you can watch, and you can see that when I ran it with Doppler and River for the first time just about a month ago in December while we had some good warm weather. So again, the focus of this conversation is how can you help your dog focus what's going on in the field, that you don't have any gunners out there, so you're trying to do a blind retrieve, especially with a blind retrieve. You can add holding blinds, lawn chairs. You can actually add a gunner out into the field and still use something like this, or the white stake or the bucket on your blinds, to get them to go past that gun, to get them to understand that the difference between a mark and a blind. It's a great teaching tool and something that I learned from Bill Totten. We do this a lot with our young dogs, even our master hunter and qualify all age dogs, and our field top level field trial dogs will be running with some kind of a marker in the field most of the time. Teach them to see this orange, this big orange pan. You'll have an easier time getting them to recognize this color, even though they can't see orange, but to get them to recognize this shade in their eyes when they put an orange ribbon out. It can help if you use this a lot, or use this and this a lot. So I like to teach difficult concepts by using paddles and markers on my blinds. And let's get into some details. All right, everybody. Thanks for, again, checking out this little webinar on how an amateur learned from a professional mentor of mine, Bill Totten, on how to get a dog to build their confidence up, look out into the field, run better blinds, take better initial lines, and get compliments from judges when you're running at a hunt test and even a field trial. So let me dive into my computer here, and let's pull up I'm going to pull up a video. Let me find it real quick. All right, so I'm going to share a video with you. This is the very first video that I have on my YouTube channel. This is from 2002, I think. It was a long time ago. This is with a dog named Dusty. It was Black Blizzard's Dust Devil. And Dusty was an amateur field champion, master hunter, and HRCH. So he got most of the big titles in his life. I had a lot of fun running that dog. This video takes you to California. Dog's about almost 2 years old, just around the time you wrap up your derby. He's running open all age blinds with Bill Totten. So let's take a look at that. And again, this video is on my YouTube channel.
Laser if you get them lined up.
I know. I'm hoping he sees that white disc out there and I just say back.
So we're running 3 cold blinds. He hasn't ran these before. It's cool. It's in the winter time. This is a winter trip. And each blind is about 300 to 400 yards long. They are marked with orange disc and a pile of bumpers. I think one might be marked with a white disc. But this is the first one. We're going to do the middle, then the right, then the left. And one of Bill's concepts here was, if you're going to run blinds like this, always do 3. Always do it in triple.
I know.
It's a 3-peat type of concept. So he took a great initial line, he got down in that ditch, and he bounced out. So you can see the disc. This is a white disc. And he had an easy time finding this, marking it, running straight to it. So this builds confidence. Just gets him to look out into the field. And he did a really nice job running that one of the 3 blinds. And you can go back and look at that video. It's the very first one, the very bottom of all the videos down there. And it's one of the more popular videos that I have on my YouTube channel. Some other concepts. Okay. This is a 10-leg lining drill that I was running with Doppler. And you can kind of see in this video, I've got orange pans here, short, and I got white pans that are long. So I'm running at about 180 degrees circle. So it's a half circle. I got 10, 5 short, 5 long. Always do the long ones first, and then come back and do the short ones. So every long white pan that I send the dog to, I'm telling them, dead bird, good. Get them to look out there. They lock in on it, good. That's it, way out, back. And the idea is trying not to handle if I don't have to. This is a lining drill, not a handling drill. So if I can get them to line out to these white bumpers or these white pans, that's the easiest part to do, is get them to look out at that white pan. So they're looking out in the field. Their attention is out into the field. They're taking a good initial line. And they haven't picked up these short ones yet, these orange piles, which is harder to see, but they have to run past it. So as they get closer to these pans, I'm sure they recognize the shape of the pan, even though it's an orange pan versus a white. So they're heading to the white, they have to run past the short orange pans. So I'm trying to put a long, and then a short in the middle. Okay. So I put 5 short, 5 long, and just work my way through this drill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the short orange ones are the most difficult. So long ones, you're telling them way out. Or excuse me, the white ones, you're telling them way out. All right. So you get all 5. So I'll start on the left and then get that left one, that left white pile with the white pan on it. And I'll bring him back and I'll line up on that one that he just got. I'll take the bumper and then I'm going to work on heeling here. So I'm going to swing him all the way over to the other side. So I get a good concentration and training on moving with me on the line. They're going to look at the far right one. They just did the far left one. Now they're going to do the far right one. You're going to get that. You're going to come back. Again, I'm lining him back up to the pile he just went to, and then I'm going to bring him not all the way over to the other one he just got, but it's going to go this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. And then same on the short ones. And then you just kind of work on the heel in here and kind of flip flop around. And you can watch this video and get a better idea of this lining drill. And again, there are some concepts in here. There are some things they have to jump over or go through. This drill is a great one to add a jump obstacle to. It's a great one to put a gunner in the field that just sits there, put a holding blind out there, make them run tight by a holding blind, put decoys out. But when you're first teaching it, I like to simplify it like you see here in this video. And we run it that way. And then I repeated this. So I had a whole week themed out and we ran this several times and in different locations. And I'll add a keyhole possibly into 1 or 2 of these. And it's just a great way to teach the dog repetition, 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 and get him to learn to heel here. That's it. Way out, back, heel here, easy, back. Lot of good concepts there. And it gets them to look out. So they're not looking up at me, looking at the flowers, trying to figure out what we're doing. It's clear, it's black and white. They're looking out into the field. They're taking a great initial line. They may not carry that through the entire way to the pile, but they're taking a good initial line. And this is how you basically would teach that. I also use those same exact pans on my double T. Okay. So when I do my single and my double T, they're marked in the yard with those white discs. So they're constantly running to all of those white discs. And before I even get to that point, when they're just a young puppy, and I started doing this when both River and Doppler were 10 weeks old. I started in the house, and then I moved out into the yard. And what am I talking about? The Pat Nolan Dixie Cup drill. If you have never ever seen the Pat Nolan Dixie Cup drill, it's worth $100 when you get a puppy. Buy that program and you will love that. And it just amazed me how I was able to get my dogs at a very, very, very young age to look out. They're looking towards the end of the yard. Started here in the living room. They just went across the living room to the door. And you had a little white marker, just a little white thing that was sticking up off the ground. And you put a little bit of food on it. And boy, they run right to it. So you don't feed them. When it's time to feed them, they have to do this first. So their reward is to do what I want them to do. And then they get a reward by doing what they want to do, and that's get fed and come back. And then we'll do a right hand, a left hand, and then one up the middle. And again, always doing a three-peat type thing. And if you've never seen that, I can share with you one of the videos. So each of my dogs have their own YouTube channel. Okay. This is how I record their training sessions and I log their training sessions. So if I get to the point where I want to breed, then these are great videos for prospective puppy buyers or females that I want to breed to show them what my dogs have done. So this is out in the yard. So again, I started in the house and then I moved out into the yard.
Here,
And I'm using a little platform to run them off of. And he ran down there.
here.
He got a little treat, and I'm telling him here, and he's coming back and getting another little treat while sitting on the platform. And then I'm going to turn him around, and then we're going to run a right-hand one and a left-hand one. And at 10 to 12 weeks of age, watch what I do next. I'm going to make him jump over a pile. So here we go with the left one.
Here.
So I just did one straight down the yard. Now we're going to do a left one. Ran down there and got it. I'm going to come back and tell him sit. And now I'm going to do the more difficult one. Make him jump over something to get to the white target that's on the other end of the field.
Back.
And I'm not going to take very long. I'm just going to plop him down there and say back. So I started very close to, I had these 5 leftover bags of mulch that I was using out in my front garden. And they'd just been sitting in my backyard forever.
Here.
And they were just the perfect little jump obstacle.
Here. Yeah, oh boy.
Yeah, isn't that
Sit.
cool?
Good.
Again, teaching him to look out.
Nice job.
Teaching him to look out. So that was incredibly fun. That was a fun thing to do every morning when I got up with him, you know, to train a little 10, 12, 13, 14-week-old puppy. And then we start throwing paint rollers and having fun, you know, teaching marks and that kind of thing. But this little Pat Nolan Dixie Cup drill was well worth the $100 that I spent for it. And I just happened to get Doppler's litter mate, Storm. And let me share that with you. I was babysitting her, and this is the first time I had my hands on Storm. Now, Storm and Doppler are litter mates. And I gotta get back to Zoom, share. And again, within I think I had Storm maybe 3 days, 4 days, if that. And Storm's parents were out pheasant hunting, and they dropped her off, and I got to babysit her. And you can see she has a little pink collar on. But I just taught her to come to here with a little bit of food, a little bit of a food reward. And it was just amazing. I was able to get her to do the same exact things I was getting Doppler to do. And she was just an itty bitty, just an itty bitty. And that wasn't the Dixie Cup drill. Right here. So again, I started real close, just made her follow me out to the white Dixie Cup, little white markers. Put the food down. And she was hungry. It was her breakfast time, and she wanted to eat. This was early in the morning. So I showed her where the food was at. I'm going to grab her, back her up onto the platform right in front of the jump here. And she's just going to go screaming down there and get it. Again, teaching them to mark out into the field. All right, so that gives you an idea. And again, those videos are on my YouTube channels. Okay, now let's focus in on how I would use this in training for like blind retrieves, etc. Let me go back to some of my Facebook pictures. And here's an example of a mark in a blind. All right, so I got a keyhole blind here with this white line. And the very end of that, and it might be hard to see, but there's a white marker down there. I think it's right there. So I ran this mark and then ran a blind. So I'll make them see that marker out there. And this is an example where the sun was behind that white pan, and it probably would have been better to use like the white bucket or the lid that allow a little bit of daylight to get in behind it. And again, these are on the Black Blizzard Facebook page. And one I wanted to show you was this one. So this is, I'm on a mound up in Elk Park. And you can see my wife, Julie, sitting there as a gun station off screen here just a little bit. She's going to stand up and just bang, shoot. So I've taught this blind. So you can see the white marker right at the very end of the arrow back up here in the shade. So again, I'm teaching them not a long entry into the water, on and off a point, take the big swim to the other side of the pond, and then drive up this hill. And it's all done because they know and see this white pan that's way up on the hill. They know that when I say dead bird, that's where the dead bird is. And it's an easier way of getting them to do what I want. And it wasn't a picture perfect blind, but when teaching it, you know, you want to have the end destination. So they have an end destination. They know that there's something up there in white that they need to get. But I had a handle to get them into the water, not run around this point, and I had a handle on and off the point. But it was just a good teaching concept when trying to teach a cold blind. What other examples do I have here? This is something I've been using in my dog training for 25, 30 years. And again, I learned this way back when I was running Dusty in field trials and competition. And the way I really taught him to be a good line running dog, take a good initial line, is using these steps that I'm laying out here in front of you. But again, these are good things to use to teach them concepts, but eventually you're going to have to take away that marker so they have the tools in their little noggin to do the end of the blind, to do that red zone handling. That is so very, very vital, especially when you're running competitions. So here's another picture. I was training with Ron Adlington one day. This is the reverse angle. So they're seeing the white side, but you can see the orange side. And he's running towards this pan. That'll give you a little bit of an idea. And here you go with a white pan at that hay bale and a white pan. Again, look how tight this keyhole is, this corridor. So we're teaching these concepts on blinds. So they build up a picture book in their brain. So when I come up in a competition, they're like, oh yeah, we got to run between these hay bales. This is how you teach it. Great stuff right there. Let's see. Well, let me look at my notes. So going back to the videos, you can do a couple of things. Change accounts over there. One of the things I really liked about the hunt test guide and being a member of that online with Clark Kennington and the guys there. Pull up my video here. One drill that, come on, where are you? Video that I really, really liked was this 3-leg pattern blind drill. Okay, and let me pull that up for you. Come back to here, to there. And let me go back.
Yeah.
Again, this video is on my main YouTube channel. I don't know if I can see right there. So here's a big picture view. So you can see I got a white bucket there, and another one there. So basically this 3-leg pattern blind is teaching them how to handle out of suction. So you teach them to run to this white bucket past this one that's close. And then you teach them to go to this one, and then you teach them to go to the short one, Then you send back to the short one, and when they get about 99% of the way, you stop them, cast them away from the pile of bumpers that's sitting here. And you can only do this if you have the field marked in some way. So another great example of how using these white buckets and these white markers will get you the end result of looking out and focusing on what's going on in the field and not up at you. Other things you can do that I really liked as bird boy blinds, and where you don't have a marker. So that's going to teach you and your dog how to handle at the end of the blinds. That's a simple thing to do. If you have one other person that you walk out in the field, they literally, dog will see them drop a bumper in the field, and then that person walks about 20 yards away, and then you run the blind. You try and go get that. And you can use birds, you can use live birds, you can use bumpers, lots of handling on that particular drill without using a marker. So in your training concepts, you want to blend in your training, right? You use these identifying paddles and markers to help you get a good initial line and have a good end destination in mind for them and for you. And then you have to mix in colder blinds where your typical cold blind where you don't have anything really marked that well, or you're trying to use a rock or go to a hay bale, use a small tree, a limb, something that's in the field that'll help you mark where the blind is, and then get them used to trying to identify those little things out in the field as well. So again, it's all melts together. But the easiest way to train and teach these concepts is to get them used to looking at the white or orange markers out into the field. And what's running? So that's basically all my notes that I have on my little whiteboard here. And I hope that helps. Again, I'm an amateur retriever trainer. Been doing this for 38 years, since 1990, something like that. Having a lot of fun. I got 2 young dogs I'm bringing up. I'm going to try and get them ready for derbies and quals coming up this year. And I'm doing a lot of training and trying to put a lot of stuff here on my YouTube channel. I hope you enjoy it and get something out of it. Now, I'm sure there are others out there that do things differently. No problem. This is just the way I do it and the way I was taught by a good friend of mine and professional retriever trainer, Bill Totten. All right, everybody. Hope you got something out of that. We'll try and have a more classic podcast as we get into the month of February. We're trying to put together some SRS judges and talk about rules of Super Retriever Series and getting ready for the Super Retriever Series event up at Treasure State Grounds at the end of June. That might be a fun one to tune into. All right. If you want to be a part of some of these podcasts, it's the easy thing to do. You shoot me an email and go to the Treasure State Retriever Club Facebook page, and you'll see when I'll put posts out and when we want people to send me an email, and I'll send you a link to the Zoom call. Check you later. Oh, I'm glad you stayed to the end. We started this little Zoom webinar type thing here, posting it on my YouTube channel about the AKC recommending cleaning your dog's bowls once a day. Well, I was cleaning out the bowls here this morning, but when they get really bad, I'll throw a little bit of bleach in there and then soak them in some hot water. Let that sit for a little while. Rinse them out real good, wipe them out real good, and then put the bowls in the dishwasher and wash them even better. However, I ran out of bleach, and in running out of bleach, I wanted to give you a tip. Keep the bleach empty bottle. Why? You can peel these off, these labels off, and what do you have here is a fantastic big old white marker that you can load up with about a handful of rocks. Just throw some rocks in here, put a little rope on the handle, and when you're doing your 300-400 yard marks, this thing hangs in the air and will roll around. It's bigger than a white bumper, and it's easier to throw than a 5-gallon white bucket, but sometimes we'll do that too. But throw this so the dogs can see it, and then put a bumper or a bird where this lands. And if you do that on your long marks, that grabs the dog's attention, especially on bright sunny days, where they can see this at a greater distance than you could just a standard white bumper or a bird in the field. So keep your bleach bottles, at least 1 or 2, fill them up with a little bit of rocks, put a little bit of weight into them, and you'll be able to chuck that a good 20, 30 yards, put a little rope on it. It's easy to do. All right, hope that helps.